let's get started right away. Hello everyone and welcome to the Scuffed kitchen. Today we will be making a delicious chicken soup from scratch. This is a great recipe for those cold winter days, and the best part is that you can freeze it in portions and have it ready whenever you crave a warm bowl of soup. Please note that you can find the written recipe in the description below, as usual, but also keep in mind that this is a flexible recipe and the measurements don't have to be that exact. To make sure the soup turns out delicious, it's important to use high quality chicken as the main ingredient. Fresh chicken from the butcher or maybe even a farmer is preferable. Try to avoid frozen meat if possible. This recipe takes a bit of time to cook, so let's get started right away. A great soup only needs a few key ingredients, as you'll see. For this recipe, we'll be using marrowbone, black peppercorns, bay leaves, salt, onions, garlic cloves, half a leek, some parsnips, a quarter of a celery root, carrots, fresh parsley, and, of course, a whole chicken. Start by sharpening your knife. The onions need to be washed and then halved. We will use everything, including the onion skin, which contains a lot of flavor and nutrients. Don't worry, it will be strained out later. Give your garlic cloves a rough chop and set them aside. Also cut off the wilted part of the leek. Make sure the leeks are thoroughly washed, as dirt can sometimes hide between the layers. Quickly peel the parsnips before cutting off the ends. Do the same with the carrots, cutting them in half if they are too long to fit the pot later. The celery root can be a bit tricky to prepare. Be generous when peeling and cutting off the small outside roots here, as there's often a lot of dirt hiding in there that is difficult to wash out. Cut a few thick strips for easier handling. Finally, I lightly score the chicken to allow water to easily get between the skin and the meat later. Before we move on to the next step, let's briefly talk about the marrowbones. I personally love adding them to many of my stocks and soups, as they impart a lot of flavor and greatly enrich the stock. While they are not strictly necessary, I highly recommend using them. However, they have one major disadvantage. The marrow tends to make the stock appear dirty and less visually appealing. To counteract this, give the bones a quick parboil for 1 minute and no longer. Afterwards, remove the bones from the water and discard the cloudy liquid. Now, we are ready for the proper cooking stage. The preparation work was light today, wasn't it? Get a large stock pot or soup pot and heat it on high. Do not add any oil. Place the onions cut side down, then add the garlic, followed by the parboiled bones. Let the ingredients char slightly, but be careful not to burn anything too badly. A slight char is desired, but the line between ruined and tasty is rather thin. Once you're satisfied, add the whole chicken breast side down. Add enough hot water to barely cover the chicken. In my case, this was about 2 liters. Then simply add all the vegetables, spices and herbs that we prepared earlier. Don't be shy to add a lot of salt. It's a long cooking time and a lot of water, and there are many ingredients, so don't hold back. Make sure everything is at least partially covered, then bring the stock to a boil. You will see some foam or scum form at the top as you heat everything. Use a slotted spoon to carefully remove the scum while it is forming. If you wait for too long, it will break and dissolve back into the stock, which should be avoided if possible. Check from time to time and remove as much as you can. Once the stock is boiling, reduce the heat to a simmer and put the lid on. chicken will need to simmer for about 2 hours, more or less. Check from time to make sure everything is okay. If too much water evaporates, simply add a bit more. After about 90 minutes, you can do your first taste tests. In my case, I realized I didn't add enough salt, but that's an easy fix. As you can already see, the meat is separating from the bones. It's going to be a great soup. So, after 2 hours in total, comes the tedious part. You need to separate the stock, the chicken and everything else. I usually use a metal sieve and remove most of the vegetables first. On the side I have another bowl for all the chicken bits. Try to be as thorough as possible here. After a while, you will only have minuscule parts left in the pot. Strain them out. The result should be a beautiful golden liquid. In case you're wondering what will happen to the cooked vegetables, they will be discarded because they have softened too much to be eaten. However, they have imparted all of their delicious flavor into the stock, so they have done their job. Once the chicken has cooled down enough for manual handling, you will need to separate the meat from the bones, skin and cartilage by hand. Get in there and start digging to get as much tender meat as possible. It took me around 10 minutes for the whole chicken. What you're left with is a fragrant chicken stock and a full bowl of tender chicken meat. A quick taste test confirms that this is a great stock and very versatile to use. If you're only here for the stock, this is it. Portion everything out, in my case I made 3 portions, and freeze what you don't need immediately. It remains for a very long time while frozen. Now, I would like to show you a quick example of a soup that you can make with this base stock. This is just what I personally like, but you can use rice, other vegetables, spices, herbs, basically whatever you want. Start by adding 1 portion of the meat back into the soup. I usually add a bit of dried soup herbs from the supermarket here as well. Then add small dried chili for a little kick. Lastly, add some frozen vegetables that I cut up beforehand. These are actually the same ones we used for the stock earlier. I just froze them after cutting so I can use them at any time. Put the lid on and bring everything to a boil. In my case, I add some small pasta for soup and cook it according to the package instructions inside our stock. When there are only 4 minutes left on the clock, I add some frozen small peas. After the pasta is done, I turn off the heat and add a couple of pieces of royal egg custard. Or, alternatively, you can also add a beaten egg. Now all that's left is to ladle a portion into a bowl. I add a bit of parsley as a finishing touch. And we're done. I have to say, this is one of my favorite recipes of all time. The broth is rich, the vegetables taste fresh, and overall it fills me with warmth. Do give this a try when store-bought stock seems a bit boring to you. Please let me know what you think in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe. See you next time!